This is Jimmy's brother. So this is the third installment, and maybe the last one. We'll see about the throne, about Shlomo Melech's throne. I'm just tripping out on the throne. So amazing. We're going to be talking a lot today about the imagination. I told you when I Baruch Hashem merited to make Aliyah at my first Shabbos here. My family, we were in Shari Chesed with my friends, the Mishpachat Chesed, and I went to the Grashul for mincha or something, and I bumped into my old friend Asher Perlin, who is a lawyer, and he was in Chappelle's with me, 94, 95, many moons ago, and he said, he was like so excited I came to it. So, and he said, I remember when we were in Chappelle's, we had our first Shabbos with one of the Rebbes, like we go to like houses of the teachers. And we were in one of the Rosh Yeshiva's houses, and you asked, what is the place of imagination in Judaism? What is the place of the imagination? And neither of us remembered what the teacher answered, but the question is Gevaldik. And the Indian of imagination has to be Rabbi Nachman speaks quite a bit about the imagination. And I'm just going to open with a thing from the Likutei Halacha, Hilchos Shluchim Halacha Hey, Beis Aleph. It was about imagination. I'm very into the imagination. And we'll see a lot about Bez Hashem today. I hope we get there. He says, Alkein b'chol Torah kula shlucho shel adam k'mais. Have a rule that somebody who is your messenger, who's your shaliach or shlucha, what they do is as if you did it. The shliach of a person is as if they are that person. Ki zeh klal kol Torah. Why is it like that all across Torah? Whether it's for marriage, whether it's for monetary things, that a shliach is as if it's the person who sent them. Why is it that? Because this, he says, is the general thing of how the whole Torah works. The entire Torah, everything we do, such an amazing thing. Every single thing we do in this world in order to be as Torah Jews is through a shliach. What's that shliach called? Everything we do, you're making use of your imagination. It is the interface. Your seichel, again, the word seichel is a very hard thing to translate. Maybe easier for people who have it. Anyways, but in any case, what? Yeah, it's like, oh, maybe. It's some aspect of like the kind of abstract intellect of the neshama. that's totally divorced from this world. There's nothing to do with this world. The only way it can interface with this world, the tentacle that it has, that through which the innerness of who you are, which is this utterly transcendent infinite being, the way it can like touch this world is through your imagination. That's the whole life of a Jew is one big shlichus. It's an amazing thing. It's one big partnership between the essence of who you are and your imagination that interfaces you with reality. Baruch Hashem. Oh, it's strong stuff. Like this needs like there's certain scotches that you have to pour a little water in with it, like cask strength kind of thing. Any case.
That's wild. Is it true
Yeah.
that anything that we think is something that we understand is actually there's a raw understanding of it that's beyond.
Yeah.
And any form that understanding has is already
It's a little
our imagination.
Yeah. It's huge, 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 huge. It's a huge, huge thing. I'll read a little bit more. Nothing like speaks this out. He says, Shekol mitzvahs Torah, ayado dafka, all the mitzvahs, anything you ever do, is dafka through your imagination. Ki kol ha-mitzvahs and bidvarim gashmi, all the mitzvahs are with physical matters such as tzitzis, tefillin, daled minim. Kedei lekasher kol ha-gashmius l'shorsham. And what we're doing is we are tying back or connecting up all physicality with its root. Shezeh ikar sod kol Torah, that's the whole foundation of what Torah is. Lekasher v'lichlol ha-gashmius v'tachlis shorish ha-ruchnis. Well, I love how this happens. It's going to relate so well to the Maharal afterwards. I do not plan it, but it's mamash a pele. It's a pele. This is a siyata d'shmaya this is why it's so important to choose something to learn and then go with it. And then it's like a fact of how Torah works. It starts to just jive with what's going on in your life in crazy ways. Crazy. I have some stories from last week that I can't tell them that. No one find it. Unbelievable. What is its root? It's God, mamish. The root of physicality is God, and it needs using the physicality through Torah and mitzvahs that's going to root it back in. And all of the mitzvahs. So we are these completely in our own root, we're souls that have nothing to do with this world, and the shliach is our medame. So every mitzvah that we do, we have to have a gewaldic imagination to be able to interface with it and do it. Jehu shliach ha-seichel. The medame is the shliach of the seichel. It is the messenger of consciousness. Ki ha-seichel ba'atzmo rachok mitarei hagashmiyim. The seichel itself, this like abstract, spiritual, intellectual, it's almost like a timeless and spaceless place of just pure being of who you are. It totally doesn't get all these shapes and colors and things that have to do with like day and night and etc. People and what is this whole thing? This big jamboree of stuff of this world, this multiplicity. Doesn't relate. And so it needs an in-between. It needs a shliach to connect things, to the in-between. It needs a shliach to connect up the in-between, right? All the mitzvahs that we do are done through the imagination, which is the messenger of consciousness. Right, so we start off as saying, is that what's the place of the imagination in Judaism? Which I once asked as a 19-year-old Baal Tshuva Yeshiva student in Eretz Yisrael. What's the place? Turns out Reb Nosson says in Shluchim Hey Ha'os Aleph that the whole Torah is one big shlichus, because who you are at essence is a being that is totally above all physicality. All the multiplicities of reality you have don't relate to it all, and the essence of your being and your seichel, which is like the intellectual, abstract, timeless, spaceless place of your soul. And when there needs to be a messenger that you can send into this world to relate to it and do mitzvahs in the world. And that messenger is your imagination. So the entire Torah is only able to be fulfilled by us through our imagination. And so therefore, one of our biggest struggles is having a medame that is mevurar, a imagination that has become refined and real and able to truly be curious and present and not be stuck in some past thing and not be stuck in some future fear or stress, but actually like be relating right now to reality. I said last night analogy from someone I just met the first time, and I think he's one of the great Rebbes of our generation. It's Spinker Rebbe. You might have not heard of him. The Spinker. He's a student of Rav Asher Freud, who was a very special. But in any case, he was talking last night about record players. How many of you have seen a record player? Anyway, it's okay. Two of us, three of us, whatever it is for. The point is, where's the music coming from? It's from that tiny moment of where the needle is actually having the friction, the scratch with the one, right? It's that's where the music is, right? Totally silent in front, totally silent behind, music in the present, right? Very beautiful mashal, right? So, yeah. I'm on live. I'm on YouTube live because YouTube, we just decided that I don't know, because it stores things much more nicely than Facebook. But we could tell people on Instagram that they go to YouTube live, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. I have no idea what, I'm slowly acquiring a cyber body. Any case. Yeah. It's it's the Yeshivat Simchat Shlomo YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, yeah. Seriously. How many layers, right? Anyway, so
There's one doing exactly what you're doing.
oh no. So in any case, okay, so this is, we need birur hamadame. How do you have birur hamadame? You need nothing less than nuvuah. You need a prophetic energy from somebody who's done everything that you need to do to be a prophet, which is not for today's year. There's all kinds of avodah to become that. And then they help you think about things in a good way, in a Torah kind of way. They help you develop a healthy shliach, that you can use your imagination in a way that will push you forward, in a way that will give you hope, that will give you joy, that will, right? Like one of my teachers of the class, he said, it's not that Jews are optimists, we're realists. This Mashiach has really come. Like, to think in a way that is, I'll give you one more example, and then we have to dive into some. There's a Gemara that I love in Sanhedrin. I think it's like Tzadik Aleph or Tzadik Bet. You have there a story of Gaviha ben Pesisa, who was a hunchback. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because it's such an amazing thing. But the main thing is that there was a heretic who came and said, how can you believe in the revival of the dead? He said, how can you believe in this? Hooray, look at the world. Everything decomposes and falls apart. And just look, everything that's all nice and orderly turns into nothing. So How can you think there's going to suddenly reverse, right? And Gvia ben Sisa said, but you're not looking at birth, he said. That which never was is my delo hava, like you never existed and suddenly you existed, right? And that happens, right? That we see. People are like, weren't there, like my kids, like my son was having a bar mitzvah. We were singing a bar mitzvah album together. Suddenly, like, there's this voice singing next to me in the world. I'm like, I cry 1,000 tears. And where did he come from? It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. And so a person who never was is a person who was lo koshaken is like, it's a kal v'chomer from birth. Birth is a bigger chiddush than Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is a rerun of the person, but birth is someone who never was and suddenly they're there. Kal v'chomer there'll be a Tchias HaMesim because birth that happens every day is a bigger miracle. It's unbelievable. How did that happen? Right? In other words, like, it's true we see things disappear. There is mortality. What about natality? What about the reality of this Pele? Yeah.
So, transformation, a rebirth, harder to understand because when someone is birthed, there's a birthing process. And it's a great miracle, but you cannot see the person.
Right.
And is transformation going to have a birthing process, or you're just going to
There's midrashim, there's a special towel, and then there's the loose bone, and whatever that means, there's DNA. I mean, there is some. Rabbi Kaplan speaks about it. It's true. It's true. The process is hidden from us.
Miraculous looking for the naked eye.
Because we don't see it. But if you think about it, you see, speaking in like the logical sense, someone who never was is. That's more of a chiddush than somebody who was coming back. It's true. The process, how does the process work? But just mitzad. Okay. Anyway,
The first Marvel movie is really good. Sometimes the second one's like
the rerun of that thing.
Yeah,
I use the word rerun. I don't know if it's a good. It's probably not a really nice word to say. It's something. But the reason I'm saying it is okay. Let's get to myself. I'm just giving it as an example of a reframing of how to think about Tchias HaMesim as actually being a lesser chiddush, a lesser novelty than birth. That's what he's saying, right? That's like training your mind to imagine and think about things. Think about faith, matters of faith, in a way that we can believe and relate. In any case, it's just an example. But so we spent some time we spent 2 shiurim on the throne of Shlomo Melech. And we spoke about how there's a tanin, which can be translated as a nachash, as Rashi does in Dvarim. That is in the shape of a circle, turning around and its turning makes the whole throne come to life, right? And there's a Midrash Rabbah that says that we lost a great shliach in the nachash. Because the nachash knows how to talk and think, and everything that Lassie could do. I don't know if you guys remember. Anyway, like a dog, they could help you. Remember? Anyways, right? So, but to have a snake, like a lizard being who stands and walks around, it would have been an amazing shliach. So, this idea of the fixing of the imagination and one way of understanding the sin of the eating of the tree of knowledge is that it messed up our imagination, messed up the pristine consciousness of things that we had in Gan Eden. And the dachash could be understood as, for each of us, as being the snake-like negativity that our imaginations pull us to and squeeze us and bite and do all these difficult and hard things. And the fixing of the nachash could be understood as a fixing of the imagination, like we said, that Nachash, and it's in the Kavanas of the Ari in for Pesach, for Shvi Shel Pesach. And Nachash can also be Choshen, which was those letters that lit up. You'd be able to see through a kind of a prophetic imagination. You'd see the letters speak to you something, which is to be for each of us in our own small way to try to read the hints of what is Hashem telling me, And whenever you open up the Torah, the way you see it is going to be a bit different than the way your friend sees it. The questions that it's going to raise for you. We have to be so sensitive. Unfortunately, it seems like the Torah is a straight piece of information that everybody just has to learn. But we have to become sensitive to what our questions are. Those little loose threads are the rabbit holes that we're meant to jump into and find our own answers and our own whole journeys with our learning. I have to really feel that little blip inside. Wait a minute, what about, don't just bury it. So many people, it's so sad. A Beit Midrash is a place lidrosh, to ask. Latelech lidrosh et Hashem lidrosh, to ask. They have to feel what doesn't, how could the Torah say this and how could it say that? And then go there and mamish ask and really ask and keep asking and try to find and little by little learn better how to navigate finding an answer. This is what the great Torah teachers are for. Not for giving you the answer, but for telling you when the way you're going about answering is not right. Because there are wrong ways. There are wrong ways of learning. You can really just be comparing things not in a proper way. And that's one of the biggest things in Torah is to know how to compare. Does this relate to this? It's called, you know what that's called? Medame milsa lemilsa. That's the sign of real Torah mastery, is when you're able to compare one thing to another and learn out through, if it's halacha or if it's agadata, learn out themes and laws and understandings by comparing one thing to another thing. And that's what the imagination can do. The imagination can see association, can make those associations. They also to associate, right? That's why doing free association sometimes can be very, very helpful in life. Like when we're confused about what we want, to sit and free associate a bunch of just things and then look at it afterwards and say, okay, this relates to this, this relates to this, and you might get a message from inside. If you let the messenger tell you, right? Let the messenger, which is your imagination, can bring you a message from your soul. Your message from your soul. That was amazing. To sensitivity to questions, free association, and in Torah, becoming a little, learning the discipline of how to do that, how to relate. Like you try. I'm a saxophone player. If you try to improvise when you're just still learning your skills, it sounds stupid. You're trying to be so cool and but like it's you're not ready yet, right? And in Torah, it's also sometimes you can have a flash of brilliance even when you just, but it's okay. Like the thing is, just hold on and keep trying, and hold on to good teachers and bug them, and keep working at it, and you'll see over the years. There's a slow process, but amazing things happen. Like we said, just stay with it, and it will start to jive with your life in an amazing way.
So you mentioned that some things are wrong.
Yeah.
What's the wrong? Where does the wrong come in?
What's wrong is, in other words, there are rules. Like for instance, in the Talmud, and a Mora, a sage of the Talmud, cannot contradict all existing Tannaitic opinions, all opinions from the Mishnah. So sometimes one of the sages in the Talmud gets X'd out. They say tiyuvta de Rava tiyuvta, like he's been answered, he's out, it happens. It's rare, but every once in a while it does happen in the Gemara, like a good, like a few number of, dozens of times throughout the Talmud happens to say, and it's important. And sometimes, there's
It's interesting that they even present them.
yeah.
You could just say like.
You could have just edited them out. Yeah.
You wouldn't even have to put it in there.
Exactly. You could have edited the Talmud. Most of the Talmud is probably, if you added it up, most of the Talmud is rejected opinions. But it's because it's important, the process, because the Talmud wants to give you the process of how to figure out what's right, how to compare one thing to another thing, and because also the minority view sometimes need to rely on it. And if it's a legit minority view, even though it's been different degrees of rejection, some things are rejected totally, some things are rejected partially, and this is more in the halacha side of things. There's again, in the Agada side of things, it's harder to say something is mamish wrong, but sometimes it's because there's a lack of information. Sometimes it's because there's a lack of sophistication, a lack of awareness, a lack of appreciation of certain themes. And a good teacher will be able to help you when what you're saying is, you may be drawn to it, but it's facile, it's missing something, it's turning things into too easy of a like whenever you, yeah.
I have an example of
Please.
like when like someone is looking at the stories of the and like they're like, oh, they're like, yes, Sarah laughed, like I would laugh,
Right.
and it's like 1 second. There are universes to understand before I'm appreciating also the resonance.
Right.
Like you have to understand the Torah talking that I've shown in the Adam, for speaking your language so that you will resonate. But to understand what the story was of Sarah, you have to go through like thousands of Torahs of repeating it,
There's so depths upon that, exactly.
So then maybe she was also saying last week how we should see it, like that type of an idea of Sarah laughing. You're like, no, she laughed. Like we also have to go to that space as well. Like, there is that. Wasn't that what you were saying?
Yeah. The Torah.
When it says something, you can pick some.
You can't turn it into a metaphor and just say, the story of Abraham, Lech Lecha, is the story of the soul, and who cares if it happened or didn't happen? No. Like in other words, like it happened and Amy cried Yotzemide Pshuto, of course. But then there's, like she's saying, like resonances and levels and a good teacher will just be able to tell when you're off. But what's fun is, and this happens once in a while. One of my teachers, particularly nowadays, like when I say to him something, and he can't just say it's wrong, but he doesn't like it, right?
Yeah.
But he can't say it's wrong. He says, you're aggravating me. Leibish, you're aggravating me. Which means I said something really good. It's just not it's not how he sees it. But that's okay. That's why Beit Midrash is supposed to be a loud place.
How you see it or how you want it.
Yeah, meaning however you want to put it. Like in other words, people are drawn to different pshatim, and people are drawn to see things in different ways. You open a Midrash Rabbah, you'll see a bunch of different opinions about it, like why Sarah was laughing, or whatever, and they all have a truth to them, but each one said what they said, and they don't like the other opinion, but they're not going to say it's wrong, right? Okay, I hear you. What I'm saying bothers me less than what you're saying. That's the kind of thing,
The people that were saying that, were they saying it because it made sense to them, or are they saying it because their rabbi said it?
It depends.
What does that mean for a person?
It depends. It depends.
Their own fiduciary.
Yeah. If they're saying it because their rabbi said it, then they'll usually say it in their name.
Right.
And a lot of times it'll turn out that they themselves have a different opinion. A lot of times, like this is the review of B'Shem Rabbi Yossi, and this is review of the Alibeh. So there's that's the sign of a good teacher, actually, when the students don't agree with them.
They still put it.
Of course, I still quote them. Exactly. I owe everything to you, but I disagree with you on most things. But I owe everything to you still, because
menorah is represent about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the measures, but it's like Doma, so this
Branches?
not just branches, but it's symmetrical.
Mm.
That is this Doma, this vision of comparison.
Ah,
in a
interesting.
certain sense, like, I don't know,
This side and that side.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I think the way I look at it is that a rabbi is like somebody who's in the passenger seat that has like a GPS or a map or something. So like this person is well versed in wherever you're going, so they can help you navigate where to go because you're just well versed in it. It's fine to get lost. You can not listen to that person or not ask for their advice and get lost in that. That's fine, but they're definitely there to help you just navigate this whole world that they've just been in for longer.
Right. Yeah. The thing is, what is that map? What is it? In other words, the GPS. So this is we're spiraling a little bit. It's okay. It's a gewaldic thing you're bringing up.
The rules of how to drive rather than the map of where to go.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good way of putting it. That's a very good way. Meaning, and you should read my PhD, by the way. As I speak about it, I speak about that exact thing. It's a great way to put it.
There's no real destination.
Meaning, the it's just too much. I mama showed pages and pages about it. Like, but it meaning say what is up? There's different. There's a. What does it mean to refine the imagination? It means to be able to be more objective. Yeah, but that doesn't mean the same. It doesn't mean objective the way we think of objective. That it's a square and it's black and it's 2 inches by 2 inches and it's not anything else, and therefore that's it. That's the objective truth of the thing. That's not what objectivity means when you're talking about the imagination. What objectivity means when you're talking about the imagination means to empty the imagination of all previous conceptions and really be ready to experience what I'm learning or experiencing now in the freshest and most pristine way possible. That's what objectivity is for the imagination. So the tzaddikim help us basically be younger and experience life for the first time all the time. But at the same time, also because of that, this is too much stuff. This is the blind beggar. In the story of the 7 beggars, there's a blind beggar who appeared in that story as a baby who was actually the oldest of everyone. Meaning, when you experience each day fresh like a baby, then each day is really different than the day before. And therefore, your life is cumulative. But if you are old, then in a bad sense, then each day is a repeat of yesterday. And so you've just basically had like 1 or 2 real days that have repeated themselves again and again. And you don't have true old age. So true old age is baby. Like, because the baby outlook allows for cumulative time and new experiences to really build up and actually brings you to the depths of wisdom. So you're truly the oldest. But not just the youngest. I remember in Montreal, like I had a teacher, Oliver Solom, but Leib Baron. He traveled with the Mir Yeshiva to Shanghai, and he from his notes we have a bunch of the Kovetz shiurim from the Ochana, and he would sit with us like a bunch of teenagers, Bali Tuva, like in high school. He'd sit with this like 80-year-old, at that time I think 7. Rabbi Leib Baron in Montreal, and it was a little table, and he'd open the Gemara and he'd written a sefer on most of the sechtas of Shas and Shalos Tshuvas and whatever, and he'd open the Gemara and say, "What is this saying?" Like with the most what is this incredible wonder? In the late 70s, it really blew my mind. I went to see Rabban Leib Steinman Zatzal. about 10 years ago or something like that, 12 years ago. And I asked him a certain question, something that was really bothering me. And he was sitting there like he looked like he was going to fall apart. Mamish looked like he was like, he was sitting in his pajamas on this like tiny little mattress of a bed, like just like a wisp of a man. And he just looked so old. He looked like he was he just looked like a dried out leaf. And then, but when he answered me, and his answer was, if you're bothered by this, you have to make it happen. I'm not going to tell you what exactly it was. It was a personal thing, but you have to make it. And he gave me this smile. I was Taseh. And he gave me this smile, and he's just like, I was like, ah! It was like he was younger than me. The jump was like crazy. Mom is crazy. It was really whacked out. I still, I didn't know. I said, Taseh. Like it's this like 2-word answer as Taseh.
The dynamic of imagination that's presented by the teachers is solely the enthusiasm of the teacher or the energy that the teacher brings to the freshness.
They help you to empty out all the extra mishigasa and relate to the world as is, to the present moment as is.
So the truths embedded in the Torah are innately life-giving.
Yeah, better be. But Sam Hamavis, like the Gemara says, like the Torah can become Sam Hamavis also. If you have them be secondary, Masme'ilim, it's a Sam HaChaim for those who do it with their right hand. Wow, this whole shiur is like all over the place. I prepared a love. Anyway, it's okay. But the Purim, good Purim. But the left hand, the Gemara says the Torah is an elixir of life, not ma'amininba, those who use it with the right-handedly. And it's Samha Mavis, Lamasme'ilimba, those who use the Torah left-handed. And Rashi says right-handedly means like your dominant hand, means like if it's your dominant thing, if the Torah is what's dominant, but if the Torah is just a secondary thing, meaning I have some fixed imagination of who I am and what the world is and what I could do and what I can't do and etc. And the Torah is just a bunch of rules that are on the side, but they're really kind of supporting my imaginary world that I live in, and they're not creating. Then it could really be a Sam HaMavis. Because the Torah is so total, and it just tells me, yeah, you are bad. You will never do it. Whatever it is, people no one will ever love me. Whatever it is, so that it will tell you this stuff. And because why? Because what's dominant isn't the Torah. It's the medame that I got, the nachash that is in me from whatever. When it's my meaning, but when a teacher can help you find that the Torah should be what's right-handed, what's dominant for you in your life, is the search, the questions, the actual interface with what the Torah is really saying, and not coloring it in with how you already see things. Letting it actually explode your myths, letting it actually really get through to you. Then it's really going to be a Sam HaChaim, because it's going to free you from the Mishagas.
I think that's the lot, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the imagination and it's living more clear and it's good thinking. So
Totally.
It can free you, but it can also free you in your own prison. Like the whole thing, I guess, the last week or the week before section. Like the whole thing of Leia or Rachel marrying.
Yaakov.
Right, I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it was Yaakov or Esau, like the prophets. It was really Yaakov was meant to get ancient covenant because he was the first one that was out, meaning that he was actually the last one that was conceived, so he was actually the last.
The younger one, right?
But everything you can find another way around it. But then at the end once you're grounded, you can't have imagination all over the place. Because like, then you can question everything. Then you don't need to do anything, because everything has another perspective. Everything has another question, and then you walk around and not solve.
Right.
Like,
The imagination
there
needs to be
some sort of balance.
the imagination needs to, right. It needs to be a shaliach. It needs to be the messenger, which is a secondary. It needs to be used and emptied out of its own. It's not supposed to be the one sitting on the throne, right? It's not supposed to be the one sitting on the throne. Your neshama sits on the throne, and then the snake that's in the throne that powers the throne, like the Shlomo's throne that had all these moving parts and everything, and it was a moving snake that started the whole thing going. This could be a metaphor for everything we're talking about, that I am in my place of glory, of royalty, of dignity, right?
That's only when we like lay down the shama rather than our mind. But when we let our mind to go though with its imagination, that's our downfall.
Exactly. So this is like
why is this whole thing about the amazingness of imagination? Really,
amazing imagination when it's refined. When it's refined. When you have teachers who
we just do it a bit. You don't know when something is 100% right, not we're all just on the journey of the life. Speak once, ever confident, you say, I know I got this. This is the fun. No, you just express it.
So it could be people who are well informed that will lead us
tzaddikim.
towards more of a eased, way of accepting this knowledge, because we think of this person as somebody who's qualified to give us this imaginative, refreshed information. They're qualified because they're not biased, because they're seeking the ultimate truth and not for their own truth. Some more than others. Some people have more of close the gap between that and others.
I remember I wanted to love a very intense stage. And he's basically, especially in Robert Hassan, he said to me, do you control your thoughts or do your thoughts control you? And like that's a very good indicator of like when it's going too far. Like it's becoming like a tiger, almost like you lost control.
You get addicted.
And even like the nachash, like for me, when I'm hearing the nachash, like I'm thinking along the lines of before the nachash came along, there was black and white, there was good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
And then the nachash came along, and then it became that we lacked self. We lost ourselves. Like, like you lost yourself. You know, and then it became this whole huge dynamic of gray in the world, of an ego sense of self. And I think that's what Reb Shlomo is talking about. That to me is what I'm hearing. We're getting rid of the nachash in our life. Getting rid of the ego-driven sense of self, of sense of imagination, forgoing that and then coming back to a much more black, being able to see much more clearly, like what is right, what is wrong, like letting go. In a sense, what you're saying is true. There is an imagination that can run wild with us, shut down, but then there's another sense of the imagination, like with everything, like the power of using our imagination, of being able to retrieve that part of ourselves, go back to the things, you know. That's what I would, when it says like nothing, that's what I would. I'm really being the true self.
Right.
You know, that's
What's amazing about we have to stop soon. But what's amazing about this thing is it's not about just getting rid of the nachash. The pella is it's birur hadnadame. There's some kind right because what's the idea? Yeah. That's it. The meaning to say right. What it is a lot of times comes back to this, the kruvim, right? What's in the Holy of Holies is this one piece of gold that's fashioned into two kruvim that are looking at the wings and they're looking at each other, right? This relationship that's in there. Yeah, it's ultimately all echad. It's one piece of gold, but there is I mean, it could have just been made as one group, but at the end it's all one, right? It's one piece of gold, but it's two. The whole chiddush of the world is that is relationships, right? And that they can be and be and we can love it and love the paradox of it. It's all Hashem, and there's really us, and it's an amazing thing. There really is a ben adam lamakom, and there also really is ben adam lachaviro, and there really is ben adam la'atzmo, and all and it's and okay. So the chiddush of the imagination and being able to relate dafka to a physical world is, and this is something we spoke about the last time in the Maharal's year, that the physical world is a place of journey and growth. So it's true what you're saying, that there's always more. There's always more. Tzadikim ein lahem menucha lo b'olam hazeh v'lo b'olam haba. There's shenem yelchel el chayil michayil el chayil. Like really going from strength to strength, from thing to thing. There really is a relationship, right? Right? It's no menucha at all. Adarabah. The like Rashi says about the Aron when it traveled. Rashi says the travel of the Aron was called a menucha, and when it was at rest, it was called traveling.
You get into a rhythm. They're not stop moving, but they're comfortable with that.
So the beauty is what's the deepest rest of the soul on Shabbos? You know what Mishnah Berurah brings down, or it's the Shari Tshuva, the end of Hilchos Shabbos, bringing down, or around the Siman Shin or something like that by Malav Malka, is bringing down that every Motzei Shabbos when you go to sleep, they ask you in Shemayim, they ask you in Neshama in Shemayim what your chiddush was this Shabbos. What was the new insight you had? And because why? For the body, menucha means sleeping and being at rest and doing nothing. But for the soul, doing nothing is the worst. For the soul, the deepest rest is a chiddush. A good chiddush. That's the deepest menucha there is. Ein lahem menucha in the way we think menucha. They have menucha all the time. They're loving it. They're so alive. They're sailing through the whole thing because they're so happy with the whole. So this is because of the gift of having been in Olam Hazeh. Heaven is great, revelation and everything, but it's static. The Malachim have 1 foot; they don't walk, not going anywhere. The same kadosh, they burn up, whatever it is. They're not moving. We, because we're sent here and to struggle with the nachash and figure out and do beer, but once you get a good medame, now you've got the power of moving like evolved. You know, like there's a whole Torah from Chabad. I forgot which Rebbe. The Sholosh Regalim. They say like when you're really learning how to be a yid, you grow a 3rd foot. And it's like the kosher locust that can jump. You get a koach.
Kosher locust that could jump?
Yeah, the kosher locusts have 2 special feet. I think most grasshoppers have them that are much bigger, like 5 times bigger than their other feet, and they're for jumping.
The other locusts don't?
Oh yeah. There's 5 different kinds of kosher locusts. I mean, only the Teimanim, only the Teimanim have a.
The non-kosher ones don't jump?
I think they also jump. But
have special feet?
I think they also do. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not. It was just an image for you. The point is.
Very good imagination.
Mm-hmm. There's Torah from the Ari about jumping. Mamish. It's so the point just is that there's a great bracha in learning to have an objective imagination, which means learning to be able to relate to Olam Hazeh with all of its mystery, with all of its the grandeur and the stories and all the people around and everything. in the present moment, emptied of the past and emptied of the stress of the future, and even of the holiness and the Torah that I learned in the past. Like Rabbi Barron, just what is this even saying? Experience what the Torah is doing right now, right? And this is that snake that is moving around, makes the whole throne. The throne. This is what we're all meant to be. Our homes, our vehicles, our possessions are all thrones for our royal soul, and we can like live in the world, and not just be repeating. We can live. We can be the babies that are the oldest. We can really have that, and we can learn. Bezat Hashem by running to tzaddikim who are the great teachers who have been there and who have struggled and stuff, and learning like we're learning. Then we can catch it a little bit. It's like Rabbi Meir said, "Kara v'shana v'loshimish talmid chacham arei zamar." If you learned the written Torah, you learned the oral Torah, but you never spent time. You didn't like apprentice with a Torah scholar, then you're still really ignorant, even though you know it all. But it's not called. There's something that you get from the apprenticeship, from the living of it with a person who's living it. That's what makes it real. That's what somehow you catch. It's like my friend. I was to end with this. My friend Elyon once asked Rav, what's his name? Rav Aviner Shlita. He asked him, how do you learn how to love God? And he said, you have to hang out with people that love God. He said, the pasuk says, I am sick with love. Love is a disease. Love of Hashem is like a sickness. So you have to hang out with people and hopefully you'll catch it. Very beautiful.
I feel like that was just Shlomo's dream when he was
that he wants the simcha of Shlomo to reach us. This is Hashem. Yofi, and this.